She was sold to pay a debt she didn't owe, delivered to the most feared man in the city like a piece of property. They said Ja Hajun was ruthless, untouchable, paralyzed in a wheelchair after a brutal betrayal, but Alicia saw something no one else was supposed to see. Late one night, through a crack in the door, she watched him stand, watched him walk, watched him pour a drink with steady hands while the wheelchair sat empty behind him. The paralysis was a lie, which meant everything else might be too. Now she's trapped in a deadly game where every moment is a test, every kindness could be manipulation, and falling for him might be the most dangerous mistake of all. Because the man who can't trust anyone just offered her freedom, while disguised as someone else, and the wrong choice won't just break her heart, it could end her life. This is a story about deception, survival, and the thin line between love and destruction. Stay until the end, because nothing is what it seems. The disguise was good. Contacts to change his eye color, different clothes, softer posture, a completely different energy. But the scar didn't lie. And now that she knew, she could see other tells, the way he held himself, the edge of calculation behind the warmth, the test underneath every word. This was the ultimate test, the final trap. He was watching her through whatever tech was hidden in those contacts, recording everything, waiting to see if she'd betray him, if she'd take the offer, run away, prove that loyalty was just another commodity. Alicia felt something inside her break. She could play along, pretend she didn't know, let him think she'd fallen for it. But she was so tired. Tired of the games, the tests, the constant surveillance, tired of loving a man who would never believe her. So instead, she reached up and grabbed Taiyang's wrist, pulling his hand away from her face. "This is you, isn't it?" she said, her voice deadly quiet. The warm expression flickered. "What are you—" "Don't." Alicia's hand moved to his face, and she pulled at the edge of his eye, revealing the contact lens underneath. "I know it's you, Hajun. I've known you long enough to recognize you, even when you're pretending to be someone else." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the false warmth drained from his expression, and there was Ja Hajun, the real one, looking at her with something between shock and calculation. "How long have you known?" he asked, his voice back to its normal register. "Long enough." Alicia shoved him backward, fury finally breaking through. "You don't love me. You don't trust me. This whole thing, everything between us, it was just another test, just another way to make sure I'm not the enemy." "Alicia, no." She was shaking now, tears burning her eyes even as she refused to let them fall. "You know what the saddest part is? I actually started to care about you. Not because of the debt, not because I had to, but because I saw the person, underneath all this paranoia. I thought maybe, if I was patient enough, if I proved myself enough times, you'd finally believe me." "I do believe. You don't." The words ripped out of her, raw and bleeding. "If you believed me, you wouldn't be standing here in a disguise trying to trick me into betraying you. You would never do this to someone you actually trusted. And I'm done. I'm done being tested. I'm done being treated like I'm guilty until proven innocent over and over and over again." Hajun reached for her, but Alicia stepped back, slamming her hand against the doorframe. "Don't touch me. Don't come near me. I'll finish out my contract because I won't let my family suffer for my choices. But we're done. Whatever this was, it's over." She started to close the door in his face, but Hajun caught it, his expression finally cracking into something real, something that looked almost like panic. "Wait, please. I just needed to be sure." "Then you were never going to be sure," Alicia said, and her voice was steady now, even as her heart shattered. "Because there's no test I could pass that would convince you. No amount of loyalty that would be enough. You don't want to trust people, Hajun. You want to control them. And I can't be controlled anymore." She pulled the door closed with enough force that he had to let go or get his fingers caught. The lock clicked into place, final as a gunshot. On the other side of the door, Alicia heard nothing. No footsteps walking away. No sound at all. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. "You're right." And then footsteps finally. Walking away. Alicia slid down the door until she was sitting on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest. Only then did she let herself cry, silent tears streaming down her face as the city lights glittered through her window like 1,000 broken promises. She'd thought she'd been trapped before, when her uncle had sold her, but that had been a cage with visible bars. This was worse, because she'd started to believe the cage was a home. Before we move on, can I ask you a question? What part of the world are you watching from? What's the time right now in your location? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like this story. Your support means everything to me. Let's continue. The morning after felt like waking up in someone else's life. Alicia packed her single bag in silence, her movements mechanical. She'd barely slept, her eyes gritty and swollen from crying, but she was done with tears. Done with all of it. When she emerged from her room, she half expected to find Hajun waiting. An apology, maybe. Or another test disguised as remorse. But the office was empty, except for the same woman who'd first shown her to her quarters. "Mr. Jha has arranged for your transportation," the woman said, her face carefully neutral. "Your uncle's debt has been marked as paid in full. You're free to go." Alicia's throat tightened. Paid in full. As if that erased everything, as if freedom was just a matter of canceling numbers in a ledger. "Where is he?" she asked. "Mr. Jha doesn't wish to see you." The woman's voice softened slightly. "He said to tell you that you were right, about everything." It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like loss. The SUV dropped her off in front of her aunt's apartment building, the same cramped complex she'd been dragged away from weeks ago. Alicia stood on the sidewalk with her bag, staring up at the peeling paint and rusty fire escapes, and felt the weight of the city pressing down on her shoulders. Her Aunt Carmen opened the door before Alicia could knock, pulling her into a fierce hug that smelled like grease and flowery perfume. Thank God you're okay. Your uncle said, he said you were working off his debt, but we didn't know if—" "I'm fine," Alicia lied, hugging her back. "It's over now." Maya appeared in the doorway, 12 years old with braids and bright eyes that saw too much. "You look sad," she said bluntly. "Did the bad man hurt you?" "No," Alicia said, and it was true. Hajun had never physically hurt her. The damage had been so much worse than that. "I'm just tired." Carmen pulled her inside, settling her at the kitchen table with tea that was too sweet and too hot, asking questions Alicia couldn't answer. Where had she been? What had she done? Was she really free? "Your uncle's gone," Carmen finally admitted, her hands wrapped around her own mug. "Took off 3 days ago, left a note saying he was starting over somewhere else, didn't even say goodbye to Maya." "Good riddance," Alicia wanted to say, but Maya was watching, and she was too young to learn that sometimes family was just people who shared your blood and nothing else. "I need a job," Alicia said instead. "Can I work at the diner?" Carmen's face crumpled with relief. Of course, baby. I'll talk to Luis tomorrow." That night, Alicia lay in the tiny bedroom she'd shared with Maya since she was 16, staring at the ceiling and listening to her cousin's soft breathing. She should have felt free, should have felt relieved. Instead, all she felt was hollow. She kept thinking about Hajun's face when she'd closed the door, the crack in his armor, the way he'd said, "You're right," like an admission of defeat. "Stop," she told herself. "He made his choice. You made yours." But her heart was a traitor that didn't listen. The diner job was exactly what she needed. Mindless, exhausting, leaving no room for thought. Alicia worked doubles, covering shifts for anyone who asked, pouring coffee and serving eggs until her feet ached and her mind went blessedly blank. Carmen watched her with worried eyes but didn't push, and Alicia was grateful. 2 weeks passed in a blur of grease-stained aprons and 2 small tips. Alicia learned to smile at rude customers, learned to tune out the sounds of the city beyond the diner's windows, learned to stop checking her phone every 5 minutes for messages that never came. She was wiping down tables after the dinner rush when the news came on the TV mounted in the corner. The anchor's voice cut through the diner's ambient noise. "Sources report that the JA organization has suffered significant losses in recent weeks, with several key alliances dissolving. Industry insiders suggest that Ja Ha-jun, head of the syndicate, has become increasingly erratic and isolated. Alicia's hand froze on the table. She looked up at the screen, but they'd already moved on to weather. "You okay, honey?" Carmen called from behind the counter. "Yeah," Alicia said, forcing herself to keep wiping. "I'm fine." But she wasn't, because even after everything, even after the tests and the lies and the betrayal, she hated knowing that Ha-jun was suffering, hated that some part of her still cared. She left work that night to find Maya waiting outside, bouncing on her toes with barely contained energy. "Someone came by the apartment," Maya said, grabbing Alicia's hand. "Looking for you. Auntie Carmen told them you were at work, but they left this." She held out a USB drive, small and black and completely anonymous. Alicia's stomach dropped. "Who was it?" "I don't know. A man in a suit. He didn't give his name, just said it was important." Every instinct screamed trap. Another test. Another manipulation. But Alicia found herself pocketing the drive anyway, her mind already racing. Back at the apartment, after Maya had gone to bed and Carmen was asleep in front of the TV, Alicia pulled out her old laptop and plugged in the drive. Her hands were shaking. The drive contained 2 files, one video, one audio recording. She clicked on the video first. Security footage, black and white and time-stamped 7 months ago. A parking garage. 2 figures meeting in shadow. As the camera angle shifted, Alicia's breath caught. It was Mina, Ha-jun's sister. And across from her, Marcus Chen, the second-in-command who'd supposedly betrayed Ha-jun. The footage had no audio, but Alicia watched as Mina handed Marcus something, a small vial. Watched as they spoke, their body language conspiratorial. Watched as Mina touched Marcus's arm, her expression calculated and cold. The video ended. Alicia sat frozen for a long moment, her mind refusing to process what she'd just seen. Then she clicked on the audio file. Static first, then voices. Mina's voice, clear and sharp. "Has to look natural. The poisoning needs to be severe enough to incapacitate him, but not kill him. Not yet." Marcus's voice, uncertain. "I don't know if I can..." "You can, and you will. He trusts you. That's why this works. And when he survives, when he's weakened and paranoid, I'll be the one he turns to. His loyal sister. And eventually, when he's isolated enough, when everyone else has abandoned him, I'll finish what we started. And my payment? You'll get your money once he's dead, and I've taken control of the organization. But if you screw this up, Marcus, I'll make sure you take the fall alone. Understand?" "I understand." The audio cut out. Alicia sat in the dark, the laptop screen casting blue light across her face, and felt the world shift beneath her. Mina. It had been Mina all along. The poisoning, the paranoia, the constant subtle suggestions that everyone around Ha-jun was betraying him. She'd orchestrated all of it. She'd used Marcus, framed him, and then positioned herself as Ha-jun's only trustworthy ally while slowly tightening the noose. And Alicia had walked away, leaving Ha-jun alone with the woman who wanted him dead. She thought about the news report, the isolation, the erratic behavior. Mina was making her move. Alicia closed the laptop, her jaw set. She didn't owe Ha-jun anything. He'd tested her, betrayed her trust, destroyed what they'd had. She should delete the files, forget she'd ever seen them, let him face the consequences of his own paranoia. But Maya's face flashed in her mind. 12 years old and still believing people could be good, still trusting that the world had heroes in it. Alicia grabbed her jacket. The penthouse looked the same from the outside, all steel and glass and money, but something felt wrong as Alicia talked her way past the lobby security. The guard who'd escorted her out 2 weeks ago barely glanced at her ID before waving her through, his attention more on his phone than his job. Sloppy. Ha-jun would never have allowed that before. The elevator ride up felt like drowning. Alicia's heart pounded against her ribs, the USB drive heavy in her pocket. What was she even doing here? What did she think she could accomplish? But then the doors opened, and she heard voices from inside the penthouse. The door was ajar. Alicia moved closer, peering through the gap. Hajun was at his desk, and he looked like hell. Unshaven, his suit rumpled, dark circles under his eyes like bruises. The wheelchair was gone. He was standing, but barely, leaning heavily on the desk for support. And across from him stood Mina, her expression the picture of sisterly concern. "You need to rest, Appa," Mina was saying softly, moving around the desk toward him. "You've been pushing yourself too hard. Let me help you." She held out a glass of water and 2 pills. Everything in Alicia went cold. "I'm fine," Hajun said, his voice rough. He sounded drunk or exhausted or both. "Just need to figure out the Patterson deal. The deal can wait." Mina pressed the pills into his hand. "Take these. They'll help you sleep. Doctor's orders." Hajun stared at the pills, swaying slightly. "What are they?" "Just sleeping medication. Same as always." Mina's smile was gentle, loving, absolutely psychotic underneath. "Trust me, Appa. When have I ever steered you wrong?" Alicia didn't think. She slammed through the door, crossed the office in 3 strides, and knocked the glass from Mina's hand. It shattered against the floor, water and pills scattering. "Don't take those," Alicia gasped, putting herself between Hajun and Mina. "They're poison. She's been planning this for months. She's the one who poisoned you the first time." Silence. Then Mina laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Oh, Alicia, you really can't help yourself, can you? Always playing the hero. But Appa doesn't believe you. Do you, Appa?" Alicia turned to look at Hajun. He was staring at her like she was a ghost, his expression unreadable. "There's proof," Alicia said quickly, pulling out the USB drive. "Security footage, audio recordings. She met with Marcus before the poisoning. She's been manipulating you, isolating you, waiting for the right moment to finish what she started." "She's lying," Mina said, her voice sharp now. "She's angry because you rejected her. This is revenge." "Then let him watch the footage," Alicia challenged. "If I'm lying, it'll prove it." Mina's expression flickered, just for a second. Then she moved, faster than Alicia expected, pulling a knife from somewhere in her jacket and lunging. Alicia barely dodged, the blade slicing through the air where her throat had been. She stumbled backward, crashing into a chair as Mina advanced. "You should have stayed gone," Mina hissed. "Should have let me finish this. Now, I'll have to kill you both." She lunged again. Alicia grabbed a heavy paperweight from the desk and threw it. It caught Mina in the shoulder, making her cry out, but she didn't stop. The knife came down, and then Hajun was there, moving despite the exhaustion, despite everything. He caught Mina's wrist, twisting until she dropped the knife with a scream. "Guards!" he roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. 4 men rushed in, weapons drawn. They froze at the scene, Hajun restraining his sister, Mina struggling and screaming, Alicia bleeding from a cut on her arm she hadn't even felt. "Arrest her," Hajun said, his voice deadly calm. "Call Detective Park. Tell him we have evidence in a conspiracy to commit murder." "Appa, please." Mina's voice turned pleading, tears streaming down her face. "She's lying. She's manipulating you. I'm your sister." "You were my sister," Hajun said, and there was nothing in his voice now. No emotion, no recognition. "You stopped being family the moment you put poison in my glass." The guards took Mina away, her screams echoing down the hallway until they faded to nothing. Then it was just Alicia and Hajun, standing in the wreckage of his office, both of them shaking. "You came back," Hajun said finally. "I saw the footage. Couldn't let you die." Alicia pressed her hand against the cut on her arm. It wasn't deep, but it stung. "Even if you are a paranoid asshole who doesn't deserve saving." "I don't." He moved toward her, and up close she could see how badly the last 2 weeks had damaged him. He looked haunted, broken. "Alicia, Don't." She held up her hand. "Don't apologize. Don't explain. I didn't come back for you. I came back because letting someone die when I could prevent it would make me as bad as the people who hurt me." "I know." Hajun's voice cracked. "I know I destroyed everything. I know I don't deserve a second chance. But I need you to understand the disguise, the test. It was never about not trusting you. It was about not trusting myself, about being so afraid of being hurt again that I hurt you first. That doesn't make it okay. No, it doesn't. He ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time since she'd met him, Jahajun looked completely lost. I let my fear turn me into the kind of person who destroys the only real thing in his life, and I don't know how to fix that. Alicia wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to the hurt and betrayal, but looking at him now, she saw something she'd never seen before. Not the crime lord, not the strategist, not the man who tested everyone, just someone who was broken and trying to figure out how to be whole. You can't fix it, she said quietly. Not with me. I can't go back to being tested, Hajun. I can't live like that. I know. He stepped back, giving her space. That's why I'm not asking you to come back. I'm asking you to let me prove that I can change. Not for you, for myself. How? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then showed her the screen. A bank transfer. $200,000. Your uncle's debt. It's yours now. Take it. Start over somewhere. Live your life. Alicia stared at the number, the zeros blurring together. I don't want your money. It's not mine. It's yours. You earned it. And this, he gestured at the office, at the whole broken situation. This isn't your burden to carry. You saved my life tonight. I won't trap you in gratitude. I need time, Alicia heard herself say, to think, to figure out what I want. Take all the time you need. Hajun's smile was sad. I'll be here, trying to become someone worthy of that trust you kept offering me. Alicia left without looking back. If she looked back, she might stay, and staying would break them both all over again. The city swallowed her up, buses and streets and people who didn't know her name, and Alicia let herself disappear into the anonymity of it all. 3 months felt like a lifetime, and no time at all. Alicia heard things, the way you always heard things in a city where crime and business bled together. Jahajun had cleaned house after his sister's arrest. Half his organization restructured, old alliances rebuilt on transparency instead of fear. He'd started attending some kind of therapy, according to Carmen's gossip network, had stopped drinking, had started walking everywhere instead of using the wheelchair, even though it clearly pained him. Alicia tried not to care, tried to focus on her own life. The diner job had turned into a management position, and she was saving money for maybe, eventually, college. Maya was doing well in school. Carmen was dating someone nice for once. Everything was fine, except Alicia couldn't stop thinking about a man in a wheelchair who could walk, who'd built walls so high he'd trapped himself inside them, who'd looked at her with something like hope before she'd walked away. It was a Thursday afternoon, the diner slow between lunch and dinner, when Alicia made her decision. She told Carmen she was taking a break, ignored her aunt's knowing look, and found herself on a bus heading downtown. The penthouse building looked different in daylight. Less fortress, more just another expensive high-rise. The lobby security was tighter now. Alicia counted 3 guards instead of 1, and they actually checked her ID against a list before letting her up. The elevator ride was just as awful as she remembered. The office door was open. Alicia knocked anyway, her heart in her throat. Come in, Hajun's voice called, and she did. He was standing at the windows, his back to her, and he looked different. Thinner, maybe. Tired. But there was something looser in his posture, something less rigid. He turned when he heard her footsteps, and his expression cycled through shock, hope, fear, and something else too fast to name. Alicia. Hi. She held up the coffee she'd bought from the shop downstairs, suddenly feeling ridiculous. I brought you this. Black with 1 sugar cube, assuming that hasn't changed. Hajun crossed the office slowly, and she could see the limp was still there, probably always would be. He took the coffee like it was something precious. Thank you. But you didn't come here to bring me coffee. No. Alicia set her bag down, straightening her shoulders. I came here to tell you that I'm not here as your assistant. Something flickered in his eyes. Then why are you here? Because I heard things. About the changes you've made, about the therapy, about you actually building something real instead of just controlling everything through fear. She met his gaze steadily. And because I realized something, I spent 3 months being angry at you for not trusting yourself enough to trust me. But I never stopped to ask if I trusted myself enough to believe that people can change. Can they? Hajun asked quietly. I don't know, but I think maybe you're trying to find out. Alicia gestured at the office. This looks different. You look different. I am different. He set the coffee down on the desk. I can't promise I'm fixed, Alicia. I still have days where the paranoia creeps back in, days where I want to test everyone around me just to be sure. But I'm learning to recognize it, learning to choose trust even when it terrifies me. That's all anyone can do. Is it enough? The vulnerability in his voice made her chest ache. Is it enough for you to give me another chance? Alicia thought about it. Really thought about it. About the man who'd tested her and the man who'd let her go. About the person she'd been when she arrived and the person she was now. About the fact that love wasn't just a feeling, but a choice you made every day. I don't know, she admitted, but I think maybe we could find out, if we do it right this time. What does right look like? Equals, Alicia said firmly. Not assistant and boss, not captor and captive, partners, making decisions together, building something that isn't based on fear or debt or obligation. Hajun was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved to the desk and pulled out a document. I had my lawyer draw this up, just in case, just in hope. Alicia took the papers, scanning them quickly. Her breath caught. It was a partnership contract. 50-50 ownership in 3 of Hajun's legitimate businesses, the restaurants, the real estate holdings, the shipping company that actually shipped legal goods. I'm restructuring everything, Hajun explained, getting out of the worst parts of the business, the violence, the drugs. It'll take time, but I'm building something that won't destroy everyone it touches. And I want you to be part of it, not as an employee, as a partner. Why? Alicia looked up at him. Why me? Because you're the only person who ever saw me as something other than a weapon or a meal ticket, because you stayed when you could have run, because you came back when I didn't deserve it. His voice dropped. Because I love you, and I want to build a life with you that isn't about control or fear, just choice. Alicia felt tears prick her eyes. You love me. I do. I probably have since the night you organized those files and flagged discrepancies that could have hurt your own family, since you defended me to guards who thought I was weak, since every moment you chose honesty when a lie would have been easier. He moved closer, but didn't touch her. But I understand if that's not enough. If what I did... Shut up, Alicia said, and kissed him. He froze for a heartbeat. Then his arms came around her, pulling her close like she was something precious he'd thought he'd lost forever. The kiss was salt and coffee, and 3 months of missing each other, gentle and fierce all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Hajun rested his forehead against hers. Is that a yes? It's a maybe, Alicia said, but she was smiling. It's a let's try this and see what happens. It's a I love you too, but if you ever test me again, I'm gone for good. Deal. He kissed her again, softer this time. I'll spend the rest of my life earning this. I promise. You better. She pulled back, picking up the contract. So, partners? Partners, Hajun agreed. He produced a pen from his pocket, and they signed the document together, their signatures side by side on the page. Alicia looked at the contract, at their names together, and felt something settle in her chest. This wasn't a fairy tale. There would be hard days, moments when old fears resurfaced, times when they'd have to choose trust over instinct. But they were choosing it together. Hajun moved to the windows, and Alicia followed. They stood, side by side, looking out at the city that glittered in the afternoon sun like a promise. What happens now? Alicia asked. Now we build something real, Hajun said, taking her hand. No more tests, no more games, just two people trying to figure out how to be better than they were yesterday. That sounds terrifying. It is. He squeezed her hand. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe alone. Alicia squeezed back, and they stood there together, equals at last, watching the city stretch out before them. On the desk behind them, the contract waited, signed and sealed. Not a prison sentence, not a debt, just a choice, made freely to build something that could last. 3 months ago, Alicia had walked into this penthouse as collateral. Today, she walked back in as a partner. And somewhere in between, they'd both learned that trust wasn't something you could test for or demand. It was something you chose, every day, even when it scared you. Especially when it scared you. So, Hajun said, not looking away from the windows, tell me about these ideas you have for restructuring the shipping division. You always did have a better head for logistics than me. Alicia laughed, the sound bright and free in the quiet office. Now? You want to talk business now? Why not? We're partners, and I genuinely want to hear your thoughts. He turned to face her, and his smile was real, reaching all the way to his eyes for the first time since she'd met him. No tests, just conversation. Okay then, partner. Alicia pulled out her phone, opening the Notes app where she'd been jotting down ideas for weeks, even when she'd told herself she'd never come back. First, we need to renegotiate the vendor contracts. The margins are too thin, and I think we can... They talked for hours, about business and restructuring and building something clean, about Maya and college and the future, about therapy and trust and learning to be whole. And when the sun set and the city lights came on like stars, they were still talking, still planning, still choosing each other. No cages, no tests, no fear, just two people, standing together in the light, building something that belonged to both of them. Finally. Thank you for staying till the end. If you enjoy this story, you'd definitely love the next one showing on your screen right now. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. See you there.